everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you all here. Today, we're going to embark on a really fascinating journey right into the heart of entrepreneurial activities. If you've ever wondered how exactly goods and services move through our economy, creating jobs and sparking growth along the way, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break down the three major engines of business: trading, manufacturing, and service. So get comfortable, bring your curiosity, and let's just dive right in. But before we get into the specifics of those different business types, I want you to keep this simple yet truly powerful concept in your mind. Every single business, no matter how big or small it is, moves the economy by exchanging value for money. Whether an entrepreneur is trading, making something brand new, or serving a community, this exchange, it's the foundational heartbeat of our whole economic system. Try to keep this core thesis in the back of your mind as we go through today's lesson, okay? So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the big idea, and then explore our three main pillars: trading, manufacturing, and service. And finally, we're going to bring it all together by looking at the circular flow. All right, let's start with section 1, the big idea: exchanging value. So what do we actually mean by exchanging value? Well, money in an economy acts like a two-way street. A business provides something of value to you. Maybe that's a product you need, a meal you're craving, or a service that just saves you time. And in return, money flows right back to them. It's this continuous reciprocal relationship. Honestly, without this two-way street, the economy would simply stall out.
Moving right along to section 2, pillar 1, trading, which is all about buying and selling.
I want you to think about your everyday life for a second. Grabbing groceries or picking up a snack on your way home. When you do that, you are participating directly in the trading sector. Formally speaking, trading, or merchandising as it's sometimes called, is the act of buying goods and selling them in the exact same form, without changing them. Take a moment to really let that sink in. A trader doesn't build the product. Instead, they act as the crucial bridge between the original creator and you, the consumer. Now, we can actually break trading down even further into two main branches. One typically involves a classic storefront, and the other involves massive stacks of bulk boxes sitting in a warehouse. Anyone want to take a guess at the difference between these two approaches? Well, if you guessed retailing and wholesaling, you hit the nail right on the head. Retailing is when a business sells goods in small quantities directly to the final consumer, like you and me. Wholesaling, on the other hand, is selling goods in really big quantities or in high volume. A great way to think about this is National Bookstore. When they sell a single pack of bond paper directly to a student for a project, that is retailing. But when that very same National Bookstore sells massive boxes of bond paper in bulk to, say, a local school supply store, they're acting as a wholesaler. And yeah, it is entirely possible for one business to do both. All right, let's look at section 3, pillar 2, manufacturing or making the goods. So if trading is all about moving goods, manufacturing is all about creating them. It's kind of this fascinating alchemy where you take raw, basic materials and transform them into something completely brand new and useful. A manufacturer buys materials, think leather or lumber, and then they apply direct labor, meaning human effort. Add in factory overhead, which covers things like the electricity running the machines. And by combining those raw materials with labor and overhead, voila, a brand new product is born. Let's just walk through this factory cycle step by step together. It always starts with the input, right? Purchasing those raw materials. Then comes the process, where your machinery, your labor, and your overhead all go to work. This leads directly to the output, which is the finished good that's ready to be sold, like a beautiful leather bag or a really sturdy wooden table. But don't overlook step 4, feedback. This is absolutely crucial. It's where a business learns from what they've produced and sold, sending all that information right back to the input stage, so they can refine and perfect their future production cycles. Now, for any budding entrepreneurs we have in the room, starting a manufacturing business requires some really careful thought. You have to consider your capital, meaning the money for tools and wages. You need to accurately calculate your factory overhead, secure the right technology, and of course, ensure a steady supply of raw materials. And crucially, you have to look at your competition. Why does this matter so much? Well, because your manufacturing costs literally must stay lower than your competitors' selling prices. If they don't, your business simply won't survive the market. And, while we're talking about spreadsheets and overhead costs, let's definitely not forget the human element. Creativity should never stop. In manufacturing, you have to be creative because customer needs are incredibly fickle. People are always looking to try new things, right? Changing lifestyles, shifting economic conditions, even just the changing of the seasons dictate what people want to buy. If a manufacturer's products aren't unique, affordable, and creatively adapting to these constant changes, well, they'll just be replaced.
Moving on to Section 4, Pillar 3, Service, which is all about selling your expertise.
I want you to think for a moment about businesses where the product being sold is entirely invisible, yet it's highly valuable. Unlike trading or manufacturing physical goods, a service business revolves entirely around performing work, doing specific tasks, or sharing your professional expertise in exchange for a fee. You're essentially selling your time, your skills, and your knowledge. So, to define it clearly, a service business sells work, skill, and expertise to others. And what's really amazing about this sector is the sheer variety of scale. A service business can literally be a single talented individual fixing a leaky faucet in your kitchen, or maybe your friendly neighborhood barber. But on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, it includes massive corporate operations. We're talking multi-story hospitals, major commercial banks, and international airlines. At their core, they are all service businesses. If you're thinking about starting a business yourself, the service sector is wonderfully accessible and the advantages are huge. First, there's mobility. You can often bring your service directly to the client. Second, you get to be your own boss, making all the creative decisions. Third, and perhaps most encouragingly for college students, it requires minimal capital. For a lot of services, you really just need your skills, a few basic tools, and maybe a tiny space to get established. You don't need a massive factory to start changing your economic landscape. And finally, Section 5, the circular flow, bringing it all together. To quickly summarize our core takeaways for today, trading moves goods from producers to consumers. Manufacturing transforms raw materials into finished, usable products. And services sell valuable human skills and expertise. Together, these three paths do some incredibly heavy lifting for us. They provide mass employment, they generate vital income for households, and they pay the taxes that actually fund essential government projects and services. Essentially, they push the entire gross domestic product forward. But I do want to leave you with a slightly more serious thought about what happens when this flow is interrupted. Money is kind of a one-way traffic system. For every inflow, there must be an outflow. If people stop buying things, or if they hoard their money in a literal piggy bank instead of spending it or investing it through banks, the whole circular flow just stops. Without buyers, businesses have no income. Without business income, there are no taxes. And without taxes, government services fail. This is exactly what economists call the vicious cycle of poverty. Active exchange isn't just good for business, it's vital for everyone's survival. So now that we've learned how the engine of the economy actually works, I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. As you look out at your own entrepreneurial future, which of these three paths appeals most to you? Will you be a trader, connecting people with goods, a manufacturer creating the next big product, or a service provider sharing your totally unique expertise? The economy is waiting for your contribution. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. And honestly, I cannot wait to see what you build.